I mean, the Rams are rebuilding. It's not a stretch to say they could trade Cooper Kupp in the offseason, and Puka will be number 1 next year.
This guy made this acquisition for Puka Nacua. I was like, honestly, dude, that's the best trade you've ever made. And he was like, that sounds like a backhand compliment. I said, it is.
Yeah, I might be biased living in Texas, but it does feel like Cowboys fans are the easiest to dupe into a bad fantasy trade.
Now, if you do have a Cowboys fan in your fantasy football dynasty league, go ahead and exploit him. And don't let him exploit you, because
it's what Jerry Jones would do.
He will. Oh, hello and welcome to What Are We Talking About with Jamie Jiggs. I am him. I am standing next to Andrew Hoang and Miles Francis. Andrew is calling from Ohio. Miles is calling from his house in Louisville, Texas.
Yes, sir.
And I am here in the great city of Dallas, Texas, the south of Dallas, but nonetheless, we are in Dallas, and we are here to talk about football. I am excited about it. How you feeling, Andrew?
I'm good, feeling good.
And Mr. Miles?
Happy to join.
Yeah, dude, it's been a good weekend of football this past weekend. I'm excited for talk about the rest of the season moving forward.
Yeah, we only had one superstar go down, Mike Williams, this week with a season-ending injury. Last week, we had a new segment on the show. It was like a bust and a superstar segment. We said that JSN is a bust, and he proceeded to get one reception for 10 yards on fewer snaps percentage-wise than last week. And this week, I am here to present the two of you with a real trade that happened in my Dynasty League. And Andrew and Miles, I want your immediate reaction to this Dynasty SuperFlex trade that happened in our league recently. It is Kendre Miller, running back for the New Orleans Saints, and a second-round draft pick for 2024 in exchange for breakout superstar for the LA Rams, Puka Nacua. So that's a second and Kendre Miller for Puka Nacua, essentially. Andrew, what's your first reaction to this trade?
Oh, man. Terrible deal. I can't believe someone would accept that garbage for Puka, honestly.
So you are on the side that the Puka side got the way better side of the deal, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about Miller, who couldn't even break in as a backup running back. I mean, how much action have we seen him? Right.
Behind Tony Jones. Go ahead, Andrew.
He's played, one preseason game?
He played in 2 preseason games. He had one great catch down the sideline. He had a walk-in touchdown. But at the end of the day, he averaged fewer than 2 yards per carry for the Saints in preseason. And had an injury in preseason, proceeded to have an injury during this season, which kept him out of the starting lineup during the Alvin Kamara suspension, which is now over, that we all know. Alvin Kamara will be back next week. And he said, go ahead and take Puka Nacua, maybe the best wide receiver in this draft class. At the end of the day, might be the case. I'm kind of tipping my hand on what I think about this situation. Go ahead, Miles.
You said this was in your Dynasty League, right? Like
Dynasty.
That I mean, maybe in like a short-term burst, you could see, like, I don't think Nacua had that great of a weekend this last weekend, but when you think about him from a long-term standpoint, he's got, that would be like immediately it comes to mind getting Justin Jefferson early in his, like when he first debuted, like picking him up and looking how that would have paid dividends the last 2 or 3 seasons now.
Yeah, it's crazy because he does seem like he's broken records. We got to keep that in mind. Like, granted, he did get a little bit lucky with the injury to Cooper Kupp. We can all agree that he's not getting the same amount of production. He's not getting the same amount of opportunity that he would because of the Cooper Kupp injury in preseason, which allowed him to build a relationship with Matt Stafford over there for the Los Angeles Rams. And he was thrust into kind of the starting role along with Tutu Atwell, who's also performed very well this season. But I think you're right, Miles. I think sky's the limit for this guy. He's not the same athlete for sure as Justin Jefferson, but he kind of
that hair though, bro. As a hair guy, you got to put faith in that mane.
Beautiful hair, It's flowing even in, there was like a shot of him during the national anthem, and his hair was like, had some great bounce to it after his warm-ups, after he'd been wearing it under his helmet for, what I would assume to be several minutes in the warm-up session. And this is a guy who's broken records. This is a guy who's done unprecedented things at the wide receiver position. And to say a rookie wide receiver in week 3 had a disappointing week with 74 yards.
Well, I mean, from a fantasy scoring standpoint, I don't think he put up the numbers that he had the previously 2 weeks.
No, but what I'm saying,
I was just looking at it. But you're right. Yeah, that's because he set his bar so high is the only reason we're saying that. Or the only reason.
And that's my point. For, spoiler alert, we're going to say it right now, a total bust. Kendre Miller averaged fewer than 2 yards per carry in the preseason. Didn't look good when he was out on the field behind Tony Jones, who I don't even know who that is.
What if instead of a second-round pick, that was a first-round pick? Does that change your mind on that deal? Because in my mind, that's a bit of a gamble, but at least that would at least balance the scale to me in my head.
12, great point, Miles. I think that would be kind of like an even trade. You're taking a shot in the dark on Kendre Miller, and Andrew's like, still, I'm not having it.
He's like, no, he believes in that hair, dude.
You have Puka, who next season could be the number one. We're talking about Cooper Kupp, who has a fat contract, who is in his, I think, early 30s. I mean, the Rams are rebuilding. It's not a stretch to say they could trade Cooper Kupp in the offseason, and Puka will be the number one next year. So now you're giving away your rights to Puka for a second-round pick, a bag of chips, a.k.a. Miller, and then you're hoping to land another Puka. It's just a terrible trade. I mean, this guy is putting up eye-popping record numbers, and those guys tend to stick. He's not like a flash in the pan, right? So
people in the NFL don't just accidentally catch 15 receptions for 100 yards as a rookie. That's not something that just like happens out of nowhere, and he's like not going to be able to replace it. And even if Cooper Kupp comes back this year, you're right, Andrew. The sky's the limit for this guy longevity-wise. And just opportunity-wise, for Kendre Miller, Alvin Kamara looked great in the preseason. He's coming back revenge body off of the suspension, coming in fresh week 4, right? Healthy and fresh week 4, in a system he understands. It's the New Orleans Saints, right? And Kendre Miller, in my opinion, is running back 4B on this team in the depth charts, behind this Tony Jones guy, who none of us have ever heard about before until this week, and Jamal Williams, who they paid a pretty fat running back contract to nowadays to bring into town for the Saints. Obviously, Alvin Kamara, number 1. And then you're still fighting with Taysom Hill to fill in that, like, change of pace number 4 back position. I just don't see where Kendre Miller edges out any sort of role on this team outside of special teams at this point. And special teams don't score points unless you're,
just real lucky. I mean,
real lucky. Yeah.
He doesn't have a role on special teams because they got the Shaheed guy. He's their number one
Rashid
returner.
Shaheed returned a punt, had 0 receptions on the day, returned a punt for a touchdown.
More positives for Puka as well. I don't even think Kupp coming back is necessarily going to be as detrimental as some people might think, because while, yes, he's going to get less targets in general, it's also going to get less coverage in general. So he's going to have more opportunity to make big plays.
My one pushback on that is Tutu Atwell has also been tremendous this year. So in redraft terms, like, maybe that balances out a little bit more. But yeah, in Dynasty, this is just a smash grab. If you can trick somebody to giving you Puka Nacua for Kendre Miller.
Maybe if you struggle with names, you don't want him on your team. It could be complicated for you.
Maybe that's why you didn't like him. Yeah, I recently, this offseason, no way you could do this trade now in SuperFlex, but I traded Kendre in a 3rd-round draft pick for Baker Mayfield, which at the time was like he was a starter, didn't quite know how he was going to look, but I was like, why not give a shot at Baker Mayfield? Maybe he's got some staying power in this league. And after 3 weeks, it looks like he kind of does. I believe they're 2-1 for the Buccaneers, and they got their ass whooped this weekend on Prime TV. But in a SuperFlex league, any sort of backup quarterback goes a long way. And Baker Mayfield looks like a high-end quarterback too so far this year. So if you can get any asset whatsoever for Kendre Miller, Obviously, we're buying high on Puka. Our other superstar candidate from last week that we were recommending people buy on, Brian Robinson, who I think was both of our sleeper, Andrew, on the prediction show that we had. I think we both had Brian Robinson as our like number one sleeper pick going into this fantasy football season, who did get drafted behind Antonio Gibson the whole offseason. Didn't make any sense to us at the time. But on the other end of things, I would like to bring up another trade. Now, this happened in the preseason, but I want you to tell me what you think about it as of right now, because I lost sleep over this trade. This is the opposite, okay? So when this guy made this acquisition for Puka Nacua, I was like, honestly, dude, that's the best trade you've ever made. And he was like, that sounds like a backhand compliment. I said, it is, because you suck at trading. Because in the offseason, he traded Dak Prescott. He traded for Dak Prescott. He got Dak Prescott on his team. He traded away Jordan Love and a first-round draft pick.
Ooh.
Now, Miles Francis, you cringed when you heard Jordan Love before I said first-round draft pick. What do you think about Dak Prescott for Jordan Love? Straight up.
Well, as somebody who drafted Joe Burrow high and picked up Jordan Love as a like backup off the waivers, he was undrafted. Jordan Love has been like low-key my MVP this year. Like with Joe Burrow averaging 6 points a game right now or whatever it is. Love has been just impressive as hell. So I feel like even without the draft pick, that's already brutal. Because I mean, let's be real. I want to say I personally like Dak a lot, like as a human being. I think he's a great ambassador for football in general. I like him as a human. I do not feel like I would be concrete in calling him like the guy in the huddle or the guy behind the line there to get the job done. And from a fantasy standpoint, if you're playing in any league where you're losing points for interceptions, Dak is not the one.
Yeah, Jordan Love also, I was watching the film of him today and I was like, I feel like it doesn't get talked about enough what a good athlete he is with his feet. He doesn't really use it. He's a very pocket passer in style, but on the goal line in particular, that guy loves running it in. So if you are in 4-point passing touchdown leagues, which I know Andrew and I hate, I don't know about Miles, 6-point passing touchdown leagues, because a touchdown counts as how many points, Andrew?
6.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot there. Exactly. 6 points for a passing touchdown in the NFL. Not 4 points. I don't know why that's a rule.
That is a weird tweak in fantasy. I don't know why they would do that.
Yeah, I think as people say, it balances out quarterback points more, but what it really does is it emphasizes rushing quarterbacks, which are already overpowered in fantasy more than anything. So yeah, I think 6-point passing touchdown leagues. Jordan Love gets it done with his feet, though. If he needs to scramble, especially when Bakhtiari's out.
He hasn't even had his best weapon, arguably, in play this entire time. Christian Watson is not. He should be back. Everyone's predicting this Thursday night, but we'll see. He said
he plans on, that was a quote today, that he was interviewed and he was asked if he's playing this week. He said, that's the plan. As well as Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones missed last week, and honestly, that Packers offense looked like it missed Aaron Jones a lot more than it missed Christian Watson. So if you can kick the tires on Jordan Love in Dynasty, feels like he's going to be a starting quarterback for that team for at least the next 3-4 years based on what we've seen already. I don't think I can say the same for
I was going to say, I don't know if Andrew's shaking his head no on there. I completely agree.
I think he's their franchise quarterback.
He's their guy, yeah.
He's their guy. We're talking about a guy right now, currently, in 6-point passing touchdown leagues, is a number 4 fantasy quarterback. Only 2 points behind Tua, and he hasn't had Christian Watson all season.
And how many points did Tua score again this weekend? I can't remember. It's
like
playing Madden, I think.
34. I think he had 34 points.
Both of their running backs had a total of, I believe, 8 touchdowns between the two of them.
I think they scored almost 100 fantasy points PPR combined.
Yeah. Tua out there in Miami, that was another bold prediction for me. I was going to say he was going to stay healthy for the whole season. That looks really smart right now, especially with the way that even surprised me how well that offensive line is playing in Miami. So yeah, I don't know. I don't get why you would be fading a talented young healthy, smart, basically like a rookie, even though he's been in the league for 3 or 4 years already.
And I understand the trade happened in preseason before any action, or I think before preseason, right? It was during the summer, the trade.
It was, but man, it was during camp. It wasn't like so far out. I lost sleep over it, man. I was like, I offered this guy trade offers for Jordan Love in the offseason. He's like, no, I don't want to trade him yet. And he goes and trades for, he's a Cowboys fan, of course, trades for Dak Prescott. I'm like, you motherfucker. So
I might be biased living in Texas, but it does feel like Cowboys fans are the easiest to dupe into a bad fantasy trade. By far.
Yeah, so that's a good thing to end the conversation on. If you do have a Cowboys fan in your fantasy football dynasty league, go ahead and exploit him. And don't let him exploit you, because
it's what Jerry Jones would do.
He will he will come out back around and take Puka Nacua out from under your feet for basically nothing, and Kendre Miller in a second round pick or whatever.